Hi ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dobbs here. It's the 14th of December 2020 and I've got you here in this rather epic shot that's just come in from Brandon Corey Nagley on the 2 days ago on the 12th of December. Brandon, it's an incredible shot. It's an absolutely sensational shot. It's been the shot that I've been kind of expecting. I know it's going to be coming in. It's incredible, and we see on the 10th of December we've got this shot, which I've pulled up there. Freud GE. Actually, it's Brandon Corey Nagley put me onto it in this video here. Actually, he brings a few shots into this video. We get this shot here also, where we get a real kind of possible idea of its kind of motion coming round. You know, we're really getting possibly. It's very, very difficult to say, but we notice that on the 9th of December we had an unexpected high tide in Venice when its floodgates weren't activated. So the whole story kind of gives it the clue that gives us some clue that, or supposedly gives us some clue that it was the floodgates that weren't activated that caused this. This is a very, very high tide, except that it's come when we're not at the point of high tide. Notice this happened on the 15th of November 2019. Happened again then. If I go to 2019, so November the 12th was the time of the high tide in 2019, and the super high tide came 3 days later. If I go to the full moon in 2020, we see the 30th of November was the full moon. 30th of December is the next full moon, which means around about 15th of tomorrow, effectively, is going to be the new moon. 15th of December. 15th of December. It's happened 6 days before the new moon. In actual fact, I've got if we go over here, high tide, floods, Venice, as dike on demand wasn't activated. Again, another story kind of like throwing your attention to the dike, and it's only just being installed now, and this is very unusual for Venice to flood like this, to this extent. You know, it does happen, but it doesn't happen that often, and the fact it's happened, what time was the tide? Tuesday tide was predicted to reach 1.25 meters. Instead, it kept rising to a height of 1.38 meters in late afternoon. And I thought that was quite interesting. So let's just come over here, and I don't know if you can see that properly, but so we've got the date here set for the 9th of December, and I've got it at 7:19 p.m. That's late in the that's kind of late in the afternoon. That's GMT. Possibly we could go forward a little bit more, just to kind of absolutely say late in the afternoon. But just to let's just zoom in there to see where the moon is. And if we come to we align the moon. Where's our moon gone? Kind of align the moon and see what land masses were on the far side, on this side of the Earth at the time when the moon was on this side. So the moon is going to be pulling over here on this side, and yet let's get the moon again, and yet we can see that there's the moon just there. We can see that the tide came up here. Now, you do get a full moon on both, you do get a high tide on both sides of the moon, but one side is thrown. Imagine two nunchuckers spinning. You've thrown two nunchuckers and they're spinning as they're moving along. Both bits of stick at the end of the rope are the same kind of more or less the same weight, I guess, and so they it spins somewhere in the middle of the rope as they go around because they're evenly weighted. Well, the moon and Earth are not evenly weighted, but they don't, an object just doesn't spin perfectly around. The moon doesn't spin perfectly around our Earth. It kind of has this concentric spin because they're both effectively orbiting each other, basically. So this side of the planet, the oceans are thrown. On the opposite side of wherever the moon is, one side is pulled, one side is thrown. Now, this makes it a little bit interesting why we would get the high tide there. It more suggests to me that the axis of the Earth has been shifted this way. It has been pulled. The lower aspect of the planet is being pulled closer to the sun this way, and the northern aspect is being pushed further away, which means that not only is it going to get pulled closer, the South Pole is going to get pulled up closer, which means that it's going to be much more extreme heat in Australia, but you can see a lot of volcanoes, and we've just been hearing that they're kind of like the largest volcano, or certainly the tallest volcano on the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia, which is, I'll come to that in a shake. But that is, maybe I've got a shot of that. You can't quite see the Kamchatka Peninsula, it just comes down up there. I wonder if I've got a better shot of it slightly. That's where I'm comparing the actual Valles Marianas, but this area coming up here is got the largest volcano in the northern hemisphere. It's not Sheveluch, and possibly it's the one that's just gone off in Russia. Obviously, the largest volcano in the world is kind of like down here in Hawaii. Whether it's Kilauea, I'm not too sure. I guess it's probably Kilauea, but I mean the whole thing is just one massive volcano. All of these volcanoes are active at the moment. They're all boiling. The Pacific Ocean underneath, massive. Not just the Pacific Basin, not just the ring of fire down here, and also the 28, 29 new volcanoes in Antarctica, but the entire, this is also boiling the ocean. So you can imagine that's boiling the ocean, that's sending all this moisture up into the sky. That goes up into the sky above the oceans when we get these big flybys happening, and it excites the magma in our core. This comes out of all the vents, all the volcanoes. And we've also got to be seeing, if this shot from Brandon Corey Nagley is correct, we're also going to be expecting this to be going after us, after it's done its flyby here. We expect that to be going out towards Mars, and Mars is right behind us at the moment. So Mars is also, whatever the volcanoes we get on Earth, we're going to see, Mars has been tracking with us. We are going to see very similar activity on Mars, and look out for lots of activity. I'm just saying that to keep an eye out, but coming back to this image here, you can imagine that what's going to happen now is this moisture is going to go, because of all the volcanoes that are about to happen now, this moisture from the boiling oceans from underneath, because of the volcanoes occurring, thousands and thousands and thousands of volcanoes under the oceans, boiling the oceans from underneath, that moisture is going to go up into the air. The volcanoes are going to create tiny particles that are also going to go up into the air. And what's going to happen is this moisture is going to condense on these tiny particles, and that air is going to collapse very quickly. Hot vapor is going to turn into water, which means that a massive area is going to contract very quickly. And it's going to create a turbine effect, which is going to create these jet streams, which are going to hold enormous amount of water. Now, because they're going to be coming up from the south, and hitting the north, the much colder air, the aspects of the globe that are going to be plunged into the cold. In this time, we could see some really intense snow coming to the northern hemisphere, like really intense. You know, we could be talking about a seriously white Christmas. It depends how long it takes for this thing to pass. But it's a tricky thing. So, you know, you're getting all the unusual anomalies. You're seeing the entire kind of structure of this thing coming around. You know, if I come back over to this model here, and I come to the model the last model I've been developing, and this model isn't conclusive. It's just, do you remember when I opened this model with this shot from Mr. MBB333 on the 2nd of December. This was my last video saying, look, we come to this juncture. Is this big flyby the one coming in? Which one is this? Is this the twin tail, or is this the other object that comes in? Remember when one comes in, one goes out, and this bottom one was kind of like on the 2nd of August 2020, and this was around about the time my mum died, and we were seeing all the epic shots coming in and going out. We were watching the massive one that was going out, that had been chartering next to us, causing the biggest floods since 1930, since the discovery of Pluto in China. And we wonder why. And as we've come round here, do you remember we saw Comet Neowise coming in here at the same time on the 20th, and as this planet has come round here, I've been suggesting, trying to work out what's going to be happening as it comes past here. You know, what we're going to see, which one is which, basically. We've got multiple objects, just like we had here, the big one going out and Neowise coming in. We saw the volcano going off on Mars, and we saw the volcanoes going off on Venus. 42, 39, something like that. New volcanoes discovered on Venus at the same time as we see the big volcano going off. And notice that, you know, we just had these big discoveries, which I'm putting up here on the, it's all in the other videos, and my last few videos have covered this. I'm not going to dwell too much. I'm just really talking about this aspect of the flyby here that I've been chartering with you for the last kind of like, since July. This aspect we've explored so many times. This isn't the first time I've seen Comet Neowise coming in. How many times? You know, I came to America in 2017 because of this flyby, Comet Neowise, but it was much further ahead at this stage, so we saw it bigger then. And then it's been drifting off and going much further ahead as we've been coming round, like we saw on the 1st of September last year when Alex Lujan caught it. Perfect. We saw the whole arc just like this, which enabled me to charter the whole journey. Let me just pause that, and because we're not going to do this video obviously now, but we'll let's bring it up to we were exploring how my new model and how it's a 250-year cycle, not a 336-year cycle. And quite a lot of people have you know, I assumed it was I'd assumed it was from this point here in 1696 when we discovered Mira, or SETI B, same time as Galileo, same time as Kepler. You know, this period, the same time as we saw 1588 when the Spanish Armada was destroyed. I had assumed this was the beginning point, and 2021 was the end. That was this same point when it finally concluded. It came to this same point, which would have been 84 years, the duration of Jupiter exactly from here to here, where we are now. Really, we're coming up to this point here now. This would have been, you know, this is the previous cycle in that would have been 1681 when Isaac Newton was discovered Halley's Comet. You know, and so that's why the confusion between the cycles, and we've just slowly built this and slowly learned to understand that this system has been parallel to us for 84 years, hiding in our daylight sky. That's what's enabled this constant 12-year cycle, you know, where you can see the patterns of how all of these objects move. And every 12 years, the furthest orbiting object affects us and causes, and it has done all the way through, since 1939, since this point here, when we saw it in Carlos, and in this current cycle, 1939, when Carlos Ferrada predicted the the big passage on the 20th of January 1939, when he said the massive earthquake would occur in Chile, and he was right on. He was 4 days out, as I've often been 4 days out, and we've explored that so much to finally realise that really it is all of the planets, or all of the whatever twin tail objects that are orbiting this object, which are moving in this kind of like, give us this 200-day anomaly, and this object has actually been sitting constantly with us the whole time. And for us to realise the genius of the kind of orbital mechanics involved in whether you want to call it Pluto, whether you want to call it Tiamat. I notice a Hush Puppy is he's making some very. I love his videos. I really do. I don't agree with all my own ideas, let alone anyone else's ideas. I just express the kind of orbital mechanics of what we're seeing, and I try to throw it together. And but I think you'll agree that that shot that Brandon Corey Nagley has put up is exactly what I've told you would see, and what I've been expecting, and this kind of big deliberation about these other objects and how this works is all in, you know, there's lots of different ways you can see it, and I don't profess to be right, you know, because I just know I'm not, and you know how this story is upgraded and developed, and I give you the best I can from the information, and we play with it. You all go your separate ways with it. You're all holding on to different truths and different aspects of truths, coming from your own perspective, as I am. You've all come from a Copernicus standard heliocentric model, a 500-year-old model, and you're all having to grapple with your science and with your kind of astronomical observations away from that, or however you want to see that, whether you're a flat earther and you're coming from that perspective, however you see it, we're all just doing our best, working, re-navigating and rejigging our mindsets and our belief systems. But you know, this, let me just come forward and just see if I can stop at this point here. These points, when these points cross us, so every 12 years, both these objects are coming round, and they take 12 years to go around this effectively. And that's where we get our kind of Jupiter effect, the furthest orbiting. And what happens is, as these come in, they move 1 month every year, but so do these move 1 month every year. The division of the 200 days is between this point and this point. So as these come in and these go out, this is what gives us the point. As these come in, like I say, we saw that in 2019. Do you remember the really epic Alex Lujan shot on the 1st of September? We saw that. We saw the whole curve of this one coming on, and we were over here, and we saw it curving around over here, and it was just like this thing had long since gone. It was going around something over there, and it absolutely proved without a doubt that whatever this thing was, it wasn't orbiting our sun. It was orbiting something over here. It was a game changer. It was the end of the Copernicus system in my orbital mechanics. It was finally over for me on that day. It was a life-changing day for me. It was a life-changing day. It was just like it was a massive thing, and to finally realise when that last shot that I showed you, the new portal one that was just up earlier, the big one that we saw, my penultimate video actually, where we see this thing, and I said it's a game changer. It means this thing doesn't move. It hasn't moved barely at all since my entire observation of it. How is that possible? How is that possible? And that is the only way. that is impossible, that these have travelled neck and neck in this fashion. That's the only way. In all the models I've ever built, I have never ever managed to work that in another way, and it complies with all of the astronomical phenomena you're seeing. It goes right back to 262. It gives you the 250 exact Valentina Zarkova sun dynamo cycle that she's talked about. It gives her the orbital mechanics. You know, if we've got this all wrapped up. Now, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here or anything else like that. I want to come back to to this story here. Aliens exist, and Trump knows about them, claims former Israeli spy chief. Now, I haven't agreed to all of the things on this page. Oh no, it started working. But I'm just going to leave it up there, and I'm just going to leave that there, and as I'm talking, you can read it at will or whatever. But you know, he's talking about how they could orchestrate an alien invasion. And what I'm going to say to you here is, you might not like this so much, but you know, my mum and dad, they in an interview with, well, let me just read this bit. In an interview with the local Israeli newspaper, Yediot, oh my goodness, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Yeah, no, Aharonut, Hain Esh, Hain Eshad, 87, said the unidentified flying objects have asked, so I don't know, that must be a name of some group or something, have asked not to publish that they are here. Humanity is not ready yet. And he talks about a former Israeli space security chief made a surprising revelation by claiming that the United States and Israel are in contact with extraterrestrials from a galactic federation. Now, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not told that much. You know, in the process I've done, you know, I've been brought up by 2 channels. You know, both my mother and my father, both my stepfather, but both obviously passed away now, but both of them were incredible channels. And they used to channel Ascended Masters from the Galactic Federation. And they were beings that work with sentient beings that are peaceful sentient beings, and that's all they can work with. That's all they can work with, and that's what's really important to remember here, is that they can work with us if we're not at war, but they cannot engage in societies, and they cannot assist to societies that actively go against those peaceful rules. And unfortunately, this free trade deal, I didn't really truly understand, even when I was told that, you know, if you leave Europe, you know, when I started my writing practice, I was learning my own channeling skills and everything else like that, and I got this message, and it showed me the Titanic, but it had Great Britain on the front of it, and it said, Britain comes to a juncture. It cuts its anchors and weathers the storm. Sorry, it stays in Europe and weathers the storm, or it cuts its anchors and heads west. But if it cuts its anchors and heads west, its fate is sealed. And I didn't really understand so much about it. I certainly didn't understand anything about Planet X. In my whole thing about writing Laughing Gas, you know, this whole book where I was told to invite them in, whoever them is, to invite them in and to give them the rule. And I said, what's the rule? And it said, you know the rule. And I said, peace. And it said, yes, peace. Peace is, say it when you enter. You know, it will be your entrance contract. It will be your, it will be our binding contract. You agree to abide by the laws. You know now. You know that of what war is and the woes of war, and that's why this space being the space being provided after this, when we leave this, is going to be the only way you can get in is by stating a peaceful intention. And you know, it's a crazy thing to do. It's a crazy thing to write in Laughing Gas and to sort of go down that story. But like I say, my parents have always channeled, and they've always channeled members from the Galactic Federation. Certainly, White Cloud is part of the Galactic Federation, and he was the one who. My mum turned up down the yard where I used to live, and she said, she'd rung me and she said, "I've got to come down and channel for you. Can I come down and channel for you? White Cloud wants me to give you a message." And so she came down to where I was living on Somerset Levels, and she channeled White Cloud, and White Cloud said, "We had you here in the oceans, in the Sea of Avalon." He said, "It's great for your writing, but he said you're going to get a message, and he said when you get that message, it's all going to make sense. It's all going to make sense." And when it said, I always wanted to know what the wall was, because at the end of Laughing Gas, it says, "Welcome to the wall." You know, this was all about discovering this wall, that humanity is facing a wall that it cannot go over or under or around. The only way of getting through it is through peace. You throw all your hate, all your war, all your depleted uranium, all your racism, all your nuclear bombs, you won't scratch the surface of it. It's seen so much bigger, so much more advanced. It is so much more clever than anything you can imagine. You know, if we choose to leave the protection of what it is to be a human on this earth, and with the sovereign rules that are tied up with that, if we choose to give that up, to sign this free trade contract, which means we are absolutely fracked everything. You can't stop anything. You can't stop them fracking your land. They can't stop them fracking you. Nothing can stand in the way of corporate profit after this. Nothing. You are completely and utterly sold down the river by a free trade deal. It is walking the Galactic Federation has no power, has no right to protect anyone who's outside. That's why those, you know, I know that I was in my process here. My process was being shown my ego in this. You know, that's why I wrote Laughing Gas. It was my process of discovering my own ego, tracking my own intentions, moving through my own belief systems, and finally separating where I could stay above my doubt and belief system, and I could hold a state of conscious duality above that. I could hear the noise but be above the noise. I could be in my rational reasoning mind without being plagued with doubt and belief attacking. I learned to do that through a practice. And Laughing Gas was kind of that journey of going through that whole noise and looking at the whole thing, a kind of bunch of activists who realise that everything they've been going on about is bullshit. It's all just sound bites created by loads of bought out science that is just peddling nonsense to drive a nuclear agenda. Not that that's the intention of the people, but when we attach to a story that's got a very dark intention, it's going to put us down. It's going to put us down, and it becomes a religion, and we start ranting this religion, and we haven't found our divinity, our divine state in that place. If we give ourselves to our beliefs, our ranting beliefs, and we override our own hearts in this. And I don't know. It's been. I saw my. I was asked. I thought I was. You know, I'd opened up this massive communication in this process of writing Laughing Gas. It was everything I'd ever dreamed that was happening. It certainly didn't tell me about Planet X. It was just talking about the soul relationship and the ego relationship. That's what I was working with. And understanding how I was controlled and how this thing fed into me. And when I was finally allowed to see my ego, it was terrified. And I put my head into Mars and saw my own ego. It was terrified. I said, "I could see you." I mean, I was just a point in consciousness. But the fact I could see him, the fact he was in my head and I could see him. And when I said, "I can see you," his face was just terrified. That his cover had blown, that I saw just where he really was and what had really happened, his whole terrible story, and all the other egos, all the stranded souls that were left there after they'd been lured into destroying their own world, lured into this terrible state of belief where their own bodies, left them behind. They were duped. They were duped like we're being duped into leaving our sovereign grace. And if we walk out of this, then we might not know what the Galactic Federation is, and they can only do so much. They can't, when these things are massively close, there's so much that they cannot do right now because of the precarious state and the place that the planet is going. You see, this whole system was there to regulate this planet if the milk went sour. That's all that it was there for. And the milk is very close to going sour, and there's an enormous amount of help. But there's choices about who we want to be, which soul we choose to tally with right now. Whether we want to be our highest or whether we want to be our ranting beliefs that leads us into anger and fundamentalism. How do we take the high ground? How do we get to the point? This is kind of, in many ways, this story is true. They are being told that I've no doubt the Americans and the Israeli are being told that they're walking into a brick wall, but they are being driven by something that they don't realise is not them. They're being driven by an eye that is not really who they really are. It's who they believe they are. It's the ultimate hack. It's the ultimate deception. And it's the most deepest betrayal. It's because that which you truly are gets, what's going to be attempted to be done here is a win-win-win situation, where those souls that have been stranded on Mars, that have been used as an attempt, as a weapon against Earth to try and drive Earth to repeating the same cataclysm that occurred on Mars, that destroyed Mars. The destruction of Mars was, that's an interesting shot. That was a WSO shot from back in 2019 on Steve Olson posted on the December the 29th, 2018. And I think the person who actually posted it originally, I think it was actually a blue Kool-Aid shot, possibly. I think that was a blue Kool-Aid shot. But isn't that interesting? Because that looks very much like the October shot in 2013. I don't know if you remember that crazy October shot in 2013, seen from Australia. One of the most epic shots at the time. It was still probably it was the most epic shot I had up until Matt Rogers' famous shot on the 15th of August 2016 when he shows it coming in. But that's the object that passed, in my opinion. That's the object that passed in July when my mum passed. That's the object that caused Fukushima to go bang on the 11th of March 2011. That's the very object that caused the massive earthquake in May 2008. When was I got anything up there? Real cracker. When was that? Yeah, that was the earthquake. See, that's May 2008. Do you remember? It was a big one. It was like 8 or something like that. I can't remember how many died, but 18,000, 19,000 kind of like. And how many? Well, it's nearly 19. Oh my God! See how much? It was a big one. It was a big one. Like nearly. That's basically 90. The best part of 90,000 people killed, and 20,000 officially missing. How much? It could be so much bigger than that. We just don't know. But that object, I just showed you, the Kool-Aid showing, the one I'm suggesting is now also coming in So we're seeing the one that we saw, Comet Neowise, whatever you sort of want to call it, coming in on 20th of July, that's coming around, which is the one that Brandon Corey's just shown, the one I opened with. And that shot I just showed of originally Blue Kool-Aid that WSO put up when was it? It was 28th of December 2018. You see, there's another shot I'm going to come back to there as well, which is going to get a little bit confusing because it's this debate of what is coming at the moment and what is going, which one's which. This is distinctly coming in my opinion, from the night and about to sort of come round. And that year would have caused, in that year, this same object would have caused the well, the one that runs parallel to this, which gets a little bit confusing, but the one that runs parallel to this would have been the one that caused Killer Whale to go off on May the 4th, 2018. Do you remember when it went absolutely mad? But just coming back to May 2008. So we go, to understand that, you'd have to add 12 years to that, because this same object takes 12 years to go round. So 12 years later, from May 2008, is May 2020, which is when we had the crazy storms in, the worst flooding since 1930 in China. This thing is right underneath us there. It's so much closer to us now. It's not just like coming in and causing, it's seriously activating all the volcanoes, causing major earthquakes. It's actually closer to us, except that we weren't at that point ourselves. In where this was in May 2008. Well, no, it was. That's what I'm saying. Actually, we come back to that, like that point, say 2011, when Fukushima went bang. To repeat that same point, the object would have to come round to 2023, 12 years later, for that same point. Hopefully we should be much further away from it at that point. So the earthquakes will be much smaller. But where we're coming up to is, well, let's go over to come over to my model, and we're just gonna come forward a little bit, and we're just going to look at that point. Again, it was a Nick Thomas shot on the 9th of July 2020. This is the highest point. So we were going past this in May, but we'd done that point, if you like. We'd done that point. That was then below us then. This is now the bit that's getting higher. This whole system is moving down through the ecliptic of our sun and its four main planets. Not the story you've been told, but its four main planets coming down, as in Mercury, Venus, Earth and Mars. Not Jupiter, not Saturn as you've been told. The orbits are different. Those two objects orbit this. Apologies. So we've got, just to explain these images, because it gets so confusing to try and bring so much information onto a bit of paper. So what we started with was let's come back to it, and then we'll come back there, just to make sure anyone who's just not quite clear on how this has moved. We're understanding that these two objects, our sun and call them Pluto, call them whatever you like, Tiamat, Venus, Jupiter, not Venus, Jupiter, Uranus, and they've been orbiting round planet X, our sun with its 4 main planets, and this other object with these twin tail objects that I've been observing for the last, I don't know how many years, 5 or 6 years now, I suppose. Taking 250 years to do one complete cycle, our sun taking 250 years to do one cycle, and this point where we're very close to each other in this aspect of the cycle. And we have these 2 crossing points, 84 years apart from each other. And as we've come closer and closer, the furthest orbiting object of the Pluto system, of the Tiamat system, whatever you want to call it, has been getting close to our system, our solar system, every 12 years, the furthest orbiting object. You know, and you can see all the patterns, 1986, 1998, 2011, go back, you know, to the kind of like, you'll go back right up back to 51, to 39, you know what I mean? You can just keep going back and you can just keep this cycle back going, and you'll see all the big earthquakes and volcanoes and everything all just fits together every 12 years, which is obviously exactly the same as our grand solar minimum cycles, except we're really seeing the orbital mechanics that's causing it now, as well as the bigger 250-year cycle that, as I say, Valentina Zarkova has isolated, the carbon dioxide that's been kind of calculated because of carbon dioxide levels calculated via, you know, samples taken from the kind of like, from Antarctica and things like that. You know, it's we know what's going on. We can see these big cycles. We can understand it all now. We're just trying to work out why we ourselves absolutely refuse to acknowledge this system's existence and leave all these nuclear power stations running every time it passes. Why are we so desperate? Why do all our intentions, why are we so thwarted in our individual states? Why can't we see it? And so what we're coming to here is we're going to go forward now, back again to that shot that Nick Thomas put up, just to where we're heading, to this point here. You know, these objects are going to be coming from underneath us and coming higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. Over here, there's these objects that we're experiencing here, but these objects are also coming in, but they're coming in below us and are going to be ascending up through us for their highest transit over around about here, right? In my opinion, this is a lot more curved. This is trying to get so much information in. You see, in reality, this object, I've got this, I should have put these the other way around, but I built one model before the last, and by the time I'd laid them out, I thought, oh my goodness, I've laid these out. But it doesn't really matter because you still get the overall effect. You know, and it's not that incorrect, but it's just out of proportion. So obviously, you know, to try and get it all on the screen like this. But you can imagine that as Earth is as our sun is coming around here, and Pluto is coming over the top and kind of descending through us, Pluto would be ahead of us. So imagine Pluto is ahead of us going this direction. Is that correct? Yeah, and it's got 4 objects that are all spinning around it at different angles, not on the ecliptic plane, but at angles like that. And these objects here are coming around here, coming below, and then coming up, 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 and to get higher and higher as they come over until the point comes where they're very close to the ecliptic plane of our system. And that's what caused this point here, but it was still quite far away from Earth, where at that point where it rose up and then it would have carried on over above us. and that's when we saw all the red glows in the sky, and we got all the shots of that. I mean, they're all there in this specific model right up to this point. And you know, my intention is now to take this model, because I separated these two out deliberately because of this time, knowing this time is going to come up, was going to be so confusing. It was going to be so confusing because it's this shot here, which is the one that's shot that Mr. MBB 333 posted 2 days before the big, I don't know if it was I think it was a SpaceX X launch, but 2 days before the big SpaceX X launch, just very recently, he posted that. And I'm of a mind, I don't truly know, I truly do not know, but that object, and if I can find it, I might have to go back. You have to excuse me, but the reason I put all these models out so that people can go up and down and find all the big models and see them and research themselves and get an idea of who's posted them and blah blah blah, and do their own kind of, go on their own breadcrumb trail. You know, this shot here. It's funny, I looked for this the other day. It was a shot that Steve Olsen again posted. I think he posted it on the 8th of January 2000 and... No, he did. He posted it on the 8th of January 2019, which was like just a matter of days after the Kool-Aid shot that he'd posted. And I noticed it's no longer in his channel, and I don't know why it's been deleted, whether he's deleted it, whether it was a copyright issue or something like that, or whatever what it was. But that object, and the object I've just shown you, that Mr. MBB 333, you know, it's almost like these were posted the same day. It's almost like they're two different objects. One's the one, this is the one that Mr. MBB 333 posted. Sorry, this is the one. This is not the one that Mr. MBB 3333 posted. Sorry, apologies. But this is that one he just posted. This is the same. I mean, maybe they are the same thing on the same day, and you could quite easily argue they were, but we're getting used to seeing so many, the big ones when they're coming really close to us, and the little ones that are far away in the distance, so we're getting, not how much it really matters, it matters enormously for me, because at the end of this little spell that we go through now, and what we see happen, especially if, you know, if Europe signs, at the moment it's going to be mostly Britain that is going to be affected this, it's going to be very scared to go without Europe. You know, if it goes on its own, and Europe can still weather this on its own without Britain. If Britain does this, Britain goes under the wheels of this. That's what I'm told. That's what I'm told. It's not. It's just that what we intend to do to this world with this story, and it's just going to try and save it. It's actually trying to help us. You know, if the protection is taken away from us, okay, we will go under the wheels of it, but the rest of the world would suddenly see it. They'd become aware of it, and there's a chance that they might switch the nuclear power stations off. So, all I can say is that there's a space beyond this that we've all been building into in many of our lives, all of our lives, all the best aspects of all of our lives, all feed into one really rich place. Unfortunately, that one place is only accessible to those beings that are at peace. And so whatever happens here, whatever goes down, know that whichever being, whichever soul your humanity is choosing, it doesn't change the state of your own soul. You know, your true soul. You know, each human being is being plagued. It's like the rabbit trapped in the headlights of two stories. It doesn't know which way to go. It's got two identities feeding into one, fighting over us. And we are coming up to this massive, when this object comes by closest, and probably it's going to be around about June, to be honest with you, because we saw it in July 2020, this year. Because of the way it curves around, if we meet it further back, because it's going to be 1 month further ahead in this next cycle, as it comes around. So it's going to be higher than it was. So, but the whole system will have dropped down as well. So we kind of each time we meet at a different aspect, and that aspect moves by a month every year. But as that whole system is slowly moving down through us, it creates a much more complex array of closest kind of passage points that, it's so difficult to explain. That, hopefully the next point will be bringing these systems into a much higher level animation. But the truth is that even if I'd had the capacity and the capabilities to build a high level animation, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I really wouldn't have been able to do it until we'd had all of these flybys in sequence and we got all the information. I think we've pretty much got it all now. What happens, we just want to know whether, as this is big, but as this one comes around here that we're seeing, basically coming in, this one I've got coming around here, it's coming in here, obviously, between so I haven't put these in proportion. This obviously comes right in here and around here and loops across, as we saw on the Alex Luhan shot on the 1st of September in 2019, the classic. And that's what we're seeing in Brandon Corey Nagley's shot, posted on the 12th, just gone. But is that object he posted, is it coming in here and going out here, or is it going to go across and above us over here, or below us over here? Which side, which way is it going out? Because this is going to have debris in its tail. This is a small one. This is a tiny one. Compared to the others, this is small. But no doubt it's got debris. So we've got choices, basically. There we go. I think that's going to be pretty much the end of it. That's pretty much, it's not an hour, but we're just in this point now where the flyby I was expecting to just come is going out now. It's going to go past us now, one way or the other, and then it's going to go very close to Mars. So look out for big volcanoes on Mars and Earth. It's going to be a big time for Mars as much as Earth, obviously, because it's massive and it's going out straight. Mars is literally. Let me just do a quick scene over to here again, and go back out to, and we're finished just with a view of the solar system, and we'll just come out, and I've got too much information there, haven't I? Let's just go to actual time as well, and just see where the moon is, because we're just coming up to, where's Earth? So Earth is there. So you can imagine this object that I've been charting, the Neowise one, is coming out like this. I can't imagine it's going to go out this side. But it does look like it's kind of here, doesn't it? It looks like it's curving in. So is its whole journey been coming in like this and out like that? That's what I'm imagining it's going to do. And it's going to come closer to Mars than it's going to come to us. But it does also potentially look like it could come out this side. But its overall arc is very difficult to make that happen. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. We're just going to wait and see. But what was interesting was that Brandon Corey Nagley also posted a shot of an asteroid coming in our night sky and it breaking up on this side. I'm imagining this side. It's going to come out here, which is what I'm suggesting. As in, we've gone past it now, and it should be coming out here. That's my logic. And the other one is going to be coming in. The two other ones are going to be coming in underneath us, and they're going to come round here and cross our path over here, and come back round to what they're orbiting over here. So we've got some activity going on. We've got some activity, but we've got a big passage coming up now, guys. A big passage coming up. And I just want to wish you really loads of luck for that. Don't know what's going to happen, but I know that, if we go into this free trade deal, you're doomed. You're utterly doomed. There's going to be massive consequences because it's a deal with the oceanic orders. And they've always run from this. They create war and they do what they do, and this is their process. This is how they do what they do, and they've got their agenda, and we're either with their agenda. And the message from the Galactic Council or the Galactic Federation, when they spoke to me, from all the channeling sessions that I sat down when my dad and my mum channeled for me, was that you can only serve one master. You know, we're just choosing a God here, each and every one of us, and ultimately through that we're choosing a soul. And it's just a massive bottleneck, and there's no wrong choice. What's going to happen is those souls that have been stranded, those ghost souls are going to come in now. It's time. And they're going to come in as we go into this, and you're going to be squeezed up against your belief systems, and you're going to go into your higher space, we're going to go into your beliefs. No wrong way. And this is the journey that we're on now. And if we leave, you know, this one's going to go by now, and the next one's on its way in. This is near-wise, massive, just like I said you'd see it. Just like I said you'd see it. Late November, early December. There she is, the Twin Tower, in all her glory. Guys, the only thing that you can do right now, if you want to save this Earth, is stop those nuclear power stations. That's it. If those nuclear power stations are all running when this thing goes by, when the big one goes by, you know, in 2008 it was May. This year, 12 years later, it was May. So 2021, it's going to be June. Logic. If you're really environmentalist and you want to save the world, you know, some of you can say Jesus is coming. Jesus, the only way to God, heaven, and the only way to escape the biblical judgment of 7 years when the rapture occurs. I don't know if that's the way. All the love in the world, whatever the answer is, I would say maybe Jesus sent you. Ciao.